Welcome, Warlords, to SAGA Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. I am your host, Rodge, joined once again by my good friend, Monty. How are you?
Rodge, I'm doing super. How about yourself?
Super, huh? Good.
Yeah.
Working through some technical difficulties, but we're here.
Yes.
We're doing it.
We're in.
Getting it ready for July 1st. We've got a big episode planned for you as always. We're going to mix it up a little bit. Some Viking Tactics. Little mini battle board review. People love Vikings, right, Monty?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and we can cover about like a quarter or a third of the tournament player population with this one review.
Yes,
So,
we can. Very efficient.
We're obligated. It's a duty. So stick around for that. And we're actually going to announce a paint contest, Monty.
Awesome.
I think it was rumored. I didn't confirm with you, but now it's confirmed. It's happening. Gripping Beast is on board once again. And play your cards right. You might get yourself a box set or some metal goodies. So
nice.
We'll have the details for that at the end. Let's move on to the usual stuff here, Monty. Any Saga news out there that you're aware of? New events?
Pretty quiet. I haven't heard much of anything like since last month. Really, nothing I can think of has popped across my screen.
Well, I got a couple things. I noticed the UK Grand Melee got additional spots.
Ah, right.
I think like the day after we recorded it, the new spots opened up. So a little misleading last time with our info, but I appeared on a podcast, Monty, Saga Ohio.
Yes, you did.
Talking about the pagan peoples, and the cat is out of the bag as well. Saga Ohio Mike will be coming to the Twin Cities this summer, and I'm going to head on over to your neck of the woods. We're going to get some games in.
That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's looking like a 2-day affair.
Yeah, I love it.
A 2-day event tournament situation.
Right. Saturday Saga, Sunday Saga, and maybe drinks. Well, not maybe. There will be drinks Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a giant margarita.
We can do that.
Something like that. That'll be good. So head on over there. Check it out. Mike did a bang-up job as always. And we talked a little bit about the pagan peoples and some other things as well. So that will be interesting. Other than that, I think somehow it's been confirmed that Age of Invasions is coming in September. Did you see that, Monty?
That's right. I have heard it's coming in September, and I heard also that the FAQ should be a summertime drop.
Okay, cool.
So we'll see.
So I think there might have been a video in French or something that maybe Herkes Monty translated on the Discord or something. Yeah. I'm not sure how I picked that up, but I read it somewhere on the internet, and we know most of that stuff's true. So
exactly,
this has got to be true as well. So hopefully that'll be coming along here soon enough. Let's jump into the comments from last time. So not too many on this one, but some good stuff for us to chew on here, Monty.
Yes.
And we got a comment from, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I'm going to say Tijo Knees. And so we talked about fanatical pilgrims last time. So he actually, or she raised a great point.
Yeah.
That wasn't on our radar because I don't think I've ever seen you use this ability.
No.
It's never.
Sorry.
But one question concerning the fanatical pilgrims and set an example. So that's another ability on the battle board. And so I'll just read it here. Choose one or two other units within medium of your unit. And if you win the melee, each of these units get 3 bonus attack and 3 bonus defense dice. During the next melee, they participate in this turn. There's kind of a interesting ability. So it doesn't actually do anything for you for the unit that uses it, but units nearby can benefit from it. So the wording of it would mean the fanatical pilgrims can't play this ability themselves. They can't use it, but they can be nearby another unit that can use it, and then they can benefit from those additional dice. So that's a great point.
Yeah, good spot.
Wasn't on my radar.
No.
Monty, that's pretty good. 3 bonus and attack and 3 bonus defense. That's pretty darn good.
It is. I mean, so if you're going to do this, you probably lead with your warlord, because your warlord might have the best chance of actually setting an example and winning the melee. That's the challenge, right? You have to actually win.
Yeah. So that could pop other, entice your opponent to popping all their abilities to shut it down so you don't get it. Okay. So yeah, I didn't see the actual win part, but yeah, you got a couple other good abilities. I think you could stack up a pretty good turn. Without fear of being wounded. If you play that, you're probably going to win the combat.
Exactly.
That's a great ability. And so, yeah, interesting. Thank you for bringing that up. That is exactly what we're looking for in these comments here.
Yep.
Another little tidbit from Terry Donor here. And he said, hey, Rodge, I play Last Romans quite a bit. One thing to note is if you use the fact, the ability that gives you 3 more dice for a shot doesn't work with the 12-pack of bows. Well, it does work, but only 2 dice instead of 3. So this is a great point. So this was in reference to my game last time where I was playing as Last Romans, and I really like that big 12-pack of bows for kind of simplicity's sake. But so he's referencing there's a hard cap of 8 dice on the initial combat pool or for shooting attacks. So if you have a 12-pack of bows, you start at 6, and then the ability activates, gives you the 3 bonus dice, so you go up to 9. And so you can only go up to 8, and you lose that dice. So that's a great point. And I could kind of push you towards just running 10 of them maybe, or 9. I guess that rounds up. 5 going up to 3. I mean, because you would definitely use that ability every turn. It's a solid ability. And or you could, it might stick with the 12, but it gives you a little extra little cushion there. If you take some damage, you can still fire at full strength, even if 3 guys go down. Yeah, it's a good point. Thank you for chiming in, Terry.
Yep. Good
Last
point.
one here. Sean Moomey, once again. Did you read Sean's comment here, Monty?
I did.
All right. So multiple paragraphs, as Sean likes to do here. So I will summarize basically the limitations on mercenaries being limited to 1 unit of, 1 unit of fanatical pilgrims, for example. That comes from the little blurb at the beginning of the mercenary section in Age of Crusades. So Age of Vikings has its own little blurb that says you can only take 1 of each of these mercenaries. And the Age of Hannibal blurb is lacking that verbiage. So just according to the rules, the way it's written, you could take multiple units of Cretan archers, Balearic slingers. What else do you have rolling around there? And what do you think, Monty? So it seems like per the rules that is the case, and I wasn't arguing that. What do you think as far as intent?
I suspect I suspect the intent is 1, but I could be wrong. I mean, I know this has been kicked around in the Discord server. I know this has come up before, and I do think if they mean for it to just be 1, I bet we'll find this in the FAQs. Answer it
Yeah.
once and for all.
So hopefully, yeah, this
Yeah,
summer, if
yeah.
the fact comes out, we'll know once and for all. And there is, I think, right in the book itself, talk about widespread mercenaries, or it's like a golden age for mercenary. There's kind of
Hmm.
verbiage in there,
That's
kind of
true.
talking. What would the age be without mercenaries? So there is that kind of verbiage in there, and that's, I think Sean references that. So could be intentional, but we'll find out soon enough here with the FAQ, and even if it's fact that you can allow them. So there is the limitation, you can only spend up to half your points,
Right.
which is from the main rule book. So you can't take like a warlord and 6 units of archers.
Right.
That'd be funny. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting. I haven't even looked to see what the possibilities are, or even if you'd like want to do that necessarily.
So it makes me want to ask the question, Raj. I think it's a good question. Kind of
Hmm.
goes to like how people play Saga in their little universe. So what is the most mercs you've ever used in your friendly games in Wisconsin? Most points.
Just one.
Yeah,
I've
same.
never.
That was my point. One. And it used to be like, because around here, there's kind of a thing where in the more formal events, that the organizers don't really, they kind of say no mercs. And so like in my friendly
Hmm.
games with my buds, we've just kind of thrown it out. We're like, hey, yeah, bring it. You don't have to ask me. If you want to use 1 point. But we've never gone wild and gone with 2 or 3 points. That's
Hmm.
just how we do it.
Yeah. So I've never done it that way either. But um, even if it is facts, to clarify that, yeah, you can. We intended to let you take as many. I mean, if you're running an event or something, you can just, if you want to, just say one only. Or
Right.
are you playing with your buds and you guys don't want to do that? Yeah,
Yeah.
don't do it.
There you go.
But for the most part, yeah, we don't play too many mercs around here. So,
Same.
all right. Well, thanks for the comments, guys. We are going to keep this episode a moving here. Monty, your machine and hobby,
Oof.
filthy, a filthy hobby animal. That's all I gotta say. I'm looking at these pagan roosts here.
Oh yeah.
What do you have to say for yourself?
So my impetus here was I guess I realized my Victrix Vikings, as nice as they were, weren't really ideal for like a traveling loner demo army that I hand out to people and, come back with, some amount of spears or weapons broken. So I thought, okay, I need to swap them out. And rather than just painting up, say, bog standard Vikings, I remembered that the Gripping Beast Pagan Roost models are Bill Thornhill sculpts and they're quite nice. They have a lot of character. Really like them. So it was an easy grab, and they went down pretty quickly. My one bump in the road for this bunch is that it's probably well known because I'm trying to be speedy. That
Mm-hmm.
painting shields is not a thing I embrace. But they've got all these door-shaped shields, like gigantic shields. There are no transfers for them, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them. And
Yeah.
yeah, once I kind of dig in, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to hand paint these shields. I don't want to spend 1/3 of my time like doing the beautiful Rodge,
Yeah.
freehand stuff. So I just did kind of a speedy geometric, and then kind of pick a themey, right? Why not? It's pagans, ravens, and all that other stuff. So I picked black and white, and got them done. Mostly, yeah, yeah, 7 points done.
Yeah. These guys look great. Nice use of the some of the same basing materials from
You
the Teutonics. It looks
you
like.
spotted that? I kind
Yeah.
of leveraged
No.
some lessons learned.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really was tempted to put them on snow, and I was like, dude, remember the rule. The shields are black and white, so don't make the bases white. It'll be too
Mm-mm.
much. So even though like I didn't. I almost did, and then I went back and used the the fall leaves for a little punch of red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they look great. I feel your pain on the shields there, but you did a good job. I like the different designs you have here. Looks like 3 or 4. Even like I like the little Pac-Man color.
Right. Yeah, I was running out of ideas, so I was just like, okay, what's a pagan shape? I don't know.
Uh-huh. But yeah, these are awesome. That's a great idea. And I actually almost had an identical realization after loaning out my heathens for a game. They came back with broken shields, snapped off at the ankles. So I'm like, okay, I guess I need to get a demo army together here. So, as if I don't have enough painting projects already, now I've added a Viking-ish demo army to the paint queue. And yeah, these are great. These are definitely getting somebody into the game. They would having some beauties like these is going to help.
Yeah, yeah. I did settle on these, but I came really close to doing a the Gripping Beast somewhere in the last year and a half dropped a complete Shield Maiden warband. So like if you really want something kind of themey, and that, I mean, to me, like, part of this is, of course it's visual, and everyone we're trying to get in the door, they're not going to all be button counters, right? So I thought, but I mean, it was tough. Like I was on the fence, and I decided Pagan Roost was something that I could also play. I haven't played him in forever, and I thought, But I mean, if you wanted something to help grab people's attentions, the Gripping Beast Shield Maiden box, maybe it might be 6 points, 4 to 6 points. That might be another approach too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, they got it. I was thinking I was probably just gonna get the plastic Viking, set the originals, break out the airbrush.
Right.
All those guys are chainmail.
So fast, yeah.
See if I could just see,
crank it.
No blending,
Nope.
I try to blend, you'll whack my hand with a stick. You can stand behind me. No blending.
Put those oils away.
Get them out of here. I'm intrigued just as like a speed project. I think it could be fun, a change of pace. But I've got enough to keep me busy for now. Monty, as you can see from my image here.
Yep. Got some archers to paint.
Yeah, I was thinking. We'll talk about our campaign game here, but the time will soon come for an in-person face-off to end it once and for all. And
yes,
I'm thinking, well, I probably will want to use some archers, so I got to get these guys in the queue. And it's kind of weird. I don't think I've assembled anything for probably 6 or 8 months. I can't remember. I think the last thing was some Infinity models, maybe back in November. Because I've just been painting the heathens, which are already assembled. I've been painting the Infinity models, which I assembled all at once. I've been painting the Hero Quest models. They're all already assembled. I've been doing commission stuff, and those are like board game models, and they're all assembled. So I was looking at them like, where's the glue? Where's my snips? I haven't had to do anything in forever. So these are the Brother Vinnies, are the ladies, the Arrow Wives.
Yeah.
And the guys are the V&V miniatures. So those are the same models I've been using for most of the other forces that I've done already. So they should fit right in. I've got a couple extra heads that I had for V&V. So I kind of swapped out, some metal helmets for the Santa hats, to make sure they are appropriately themey to the force. But I'm looking forward to putting these guys together, and no shields on it. So that was about a third of my painting time, according to the Monty calculator, shortly a little while ago. So it's not too far off. So not having that shield is pretty nice, and it's got nice flowing clothes, and the kind of airbrush technique I've been using should work pretty well for them. And other than that, I've been doing some commission stuff. I am working on another batch of heathens right now, and something kind of flipped on them where I don't know, the last couple batches I did, I wasn't having a lot of fun painting them for some reason.
Okay.
But I think since I'm so close to like having this huge batch that I started be finished, that it's like, yeah, I'm at like the 94% mark. So it's fun painting them again. So
Nice. That's the trick. Seriously, you got your mojo back.
yeah, and it'll be nice. I'm definitely gonna move on to something else, but I've got anyway, I'm gonna do these archers quick, but I gotta do more cav. The like heavy weapon versions. I've got the Hearthguard with all the metal, basically the guys that you just painted to do. So I'm gonna be doing other stuff, but I'm gonna be mixing in like batches of 4 to 8 of these models, probably for like the next 3 years. I'll just be able to keep adding to them and keep growing the fours, and doing all those variants that I dreamed of initially. So I'm getting pretty excited that the baseline is done here. So there'll be pictures of those shortly, probably a couple
Nice.
days after this episode airs. I'll probably start feeding those on to Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, things are going good hobby wise, keeping the streak alive. And why don't we move on to some games here? So we'll talk about our campaign after the games. How about that?
Okay.
So did you get any other games in besides our little scrum?
Right. So I was thinking I had a couple games. What might be more interesting than kind of blow by blow in the discussion is just like what I was trying to do. And
Okay.
what I was trying to do is as I look around the Saga universe, across the world, I noticed that TOs are having an issue, which we might need to deal with, say, next March at Adepticon at the US Grand Melee. And the issue is that, like with the passage of time, there's a new book that drops, passage of time, new book that drops. And so our menu, our choices get bigger and bigger, but the time frame, like of an event, is a fixed amount.
Yes.
Right? So what to do, right? And one thing I've noticed, we mentioned this last episode, was that at the UK Grand Melee, they were opening it up to everyone, and by everyone, I think like everyone except fantasy. They were allowing Age of Hannibal. I think Age of Invasion is in there, Age of Vikings, and Age of Crusades. Now, I don't know what we'll do, but I don't know exactly what we'll do. I know each TO has to kind of wrestle with this issue, but I wanted to try and experiment. I remembered that the Pagan Roosts they're pretty solid. They're not going to catch people out. They have some nice tricks and some board control. And so I kind of did something that you might file under hubris, but I went to my buddies, and the first one I said is, hey, pick any book and pick any scenario, and I'm bringing Pagan Roosts, and let's throw down. And I lost that game. By the way, I played the Age of Invasion Romans, and I had forgotten just how good they are at their defensive buffs. Like I would tool up one hard punch, and he would just unpack all his defensive dice. He'd raise his armor to 6. And he had mounted Hearthguard, and he had all these nice tools. He had a Manu Ballista, and my guys are just walking around, bread and butter, warriors and Hearthguard, and I lost. But it was good, and it was close. I had my chances, but it slipped away. So I was like, okay, well, let's try this again. So I went to another friend of mine, and I said, hey, I'm bringing Pagan Roost. Bring your meanest build, any book, and pick a scenario. And my buddy brought Iberians.
All right.
Oh my gosh. Again, under the heading hubris, we played Ambush, and that's the one where the 3 wagons are coming down the road. And I think, like, honestly, I think I played a very tight game. I played my board better because it was my second game. My first game, I admit, I was a little wobbly. It's been
Yeah.
probably 2 years since I played Pagan Roost, but I tightened up. I tried, like, the mess with him kind of plays. I tried to shut down long range charges and shooting. Yeah, I had defensive buffs up. I tried to be careful. I jumped and grabbed two of the carts early with some good action. I think I had a good build, but the end of the game, all of those guerrilla activations just kind of overwhelmed me. Yeah, they just did. He's plays in his turn, and then he had like 4 and 5 activations in my turn, and it was right down to the wire. Like my experiment was, can a Vikings warband run in other universes? I think even though I lost twice, I think the answer is yes, they can. I mean, I'm not saying
Cool.
I'm not saying it's ideal for me, and the Iberians certainly stress you. They had mounted. I have no mounted. They have shooting. I have javelin. They have guerrilla. I have nothing like that. But it was toe to toe, and I had a chance to steal it back at the top of the game. Couldn't quite get through his wall of warriors to hit his exhausted warlord to take back one of the two objectives. So I go down
Mm-hmm.
to a loss. But overall, I would just like to say, as we've talked about, as we've suspected, all these universes, of course, it's just a very big rock, paper, scissors. And you walk up to the table, and if you're going to be an event like this, I think here we go. Here's my takeaway. If you're going to join in an event like this, just have fun with it. Realize you're going to see builds you maybe aren't familiar with. You might see things that your buddies don't play. You're going to learn something, and you might get caught out with some mismatches. But if you go with the right attitude, I think you could do it. I think as a TO and as a player that it's hard to like have a only Age of Invasions event. It's not hard, but I mean, the more players you have, the more people want to get to the door. You might have to throw the doors open like they're doing abroad, and so that's my bottom line: is that it's not a bad thing. It's a fun thing, and I think it's worth the spin.
Awesome. That's
Yeah,
glad to hear. Yeah, and especially considering they knew you were taking Pagan Rose.
they did.
So
I
they
let them
picked
pick the
specifically the
scenario.
scenario specifically.
Yeah.
So when you think of all the random matchups and the scenarios, all this is going to balance out. Like you might have the odds stacked against you in one game, but then the next one it's gonna be flip flop. You're gonna be the one where you're just like giggling and can't see how you can possibly lose. But once you start rolling the dice,
Surprise.
yeah, surprise.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, that was, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. It was just, that was my approach to kind of get them, because people are a little nervous. Like, we normally don't actually play out of universes. We just, as creatures of habits, we say, hey, we're going to play Age of Vikings, and then we'll name the book. And so, because I was kind of nudging them out of their comfort zone, I think that's maybe why I threw them those little bits to help make it more attractive or interesting and more challenging for me.
mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, that I like what you did there. I might have to throw that challenge out there. Bring it. Um,
Yeah,
it's
careful.
definitely, yeah, you're definitely cooking some bad mojo by throwing it out there. I'd be worried about that. But yeah, you were coming from a good place.
Yeah.
Just your own personal experiment, and I mean, you learned a lot. And
Yes.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, um, for my game, I don't really have much to dive into. We had a big in-person Saga Day, which was awesome. So one of
Nice.
my games, I was loaning my models out and kind of supervising, and then one I was kind of just jumped in using a different guy's models in a different matchup, and so I was using the Under Earth, and it was a magic game playing
Nice.
against my demons.
Okay.
I was playing prized possessions once again, so trying to get, I like that one. I didn't get it right again this time because of the multiple movements, the additional ones for those messengers or whatever they are. They get the first one's medium, and then every additional one is short automatically. So I definitely moved a couple media multiple times, and then it wasn't till a couple turns later then I was like, oh yeah, they only move short on the additional moves because they just have like 7 or 8 special rules, and you just can't get them all. I'm always going to forget something with those, but I'm working on it, and it was a good game. The Under Earth board, so I don't think the models I was using really matched up to what they should be doing. I had one shooting unit, so a lot of the times there was like 1 or 2 abilities that I wanted to use, and then I'm like, well, I don't know what to do with the rest of these dice here. I guess I'll just activate my guys here. So that's an interesting board.
Yes, it is.
Just the way that it worked out. I mean, that reroll ability is great, but then once you get off that, then you're getting into some really niche abilities that may not come up so often. So I think you really got to be careful with your build and what you want to do with that. So, and we had some across universe stuff. We had the Pagan Rus going up against the Mutatawiya.
Wow.
And that was a good game.
Yeah.
The Rus were hitting it hard early on, but the Mutts made a few saves and came back to wipe out the little Hearthguard units all over and won the day. And it was a newer player, so it was really cool to see him get his first win with his models that he had just speed built to get him out there. And I have to say, so this is new guy Tom, and he, for his infantry, he used a parry. I think they're Afghans.
Okay.
He wasn't quite sure,
Yeah.
but they're plastic. They're dudes. To my, I'm sure, racist Western eyes, they look similar enough to the Arab infantry models. That are specifically for those age. So these would be 1,000 years later, but they had the turbans, the robes, the detail and the postures were really good. They had like those kind of thin sabers, so maybe that's not right, but you could easily give them spears or some chunkier swords or axes. But those were really, really good models, and they had the little shields and bucklers. So definitely, I don't know what the price point is, but they give the Gripping Beasts a run for their money. And they kind of look different than the GBs, which are more flowing rows, or these guys are wearing more like pants, shirt and pants, I guess. So if you like guys with pants better than guys with robes, check out those Perry plastics. I didn't even know they made plastic stuff at all. I mean, I knew they made Civil War stuff, but I guess I didn't know they made other historical ages. So they turned out quite well.
Nice.
And so nothing much as far as games for me. Hopefully I can get a few more in before next month. And did get a game in against you, Monty.
Yes.
The campaign.
Yep.
We continued it. I have to go to our campaign page here. I don't know what the results are currently, but so we did pitched battle using equal points this time.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to give the Eastern Princes a little stress test, see how they could do. And you were using the Baltic Crusaders.
Yep.
And you mixed it up with your build. Why don't you tell us what you did?
Yeah. So I know from our prior games that the Eastern Princes, with their point of levy, and in the past you've taken 2 to 3 points of mounted Hearthguard with Javelin, and they're really quite effective. Like, you've kind of shown me just how good the Eastern Princes are. Nobody's playing them, or I would say around here nobody's playing them, and I hadn't ever seen them played before. And I've learned a few things. So here was my decision point. I'm back to the Baltic Crusaders. I do like 2 points of levy shooters to kind of be able to, match your shooting, maybe even top it a little bit. And then I like to set them out on the wings and have them to kind of like be supporting fire for each other and create kind of a beaten zone. So that was my wings. And then of course, it's the Baltic Crusaders, so you got to go heavy with Hearthguard. I didn't really want them mounted because I knew you could throw your little, javelins at me. You could shoot me with your bows. So I put my Hearthguard on foot. That makes me slow. And then, it's just kind of a wild last second idea as I come to the table. I remembered that the mounted Western Knights could give me mounted warriors, 8 figures, that are 5/4s, which is pretty darn good. 5 in melee, 4s to shooting. So I went ahead and grabbed them, and that was my build.
Yeah. So the Knights kind of threw me off a little bit there, but I ended up going with a slightly different build as well. So I had a unit of Levy Archers. I had 2 units of mounted Hearthguard with javelins, mounted Warlord, and then last time I had a unit of 12 warriors and a 4-pack, which was, so it was the 16, 2 points of warriors. So originally I was thinking I would do a 3rd Hearthguard unit, but I really didn't like that little 4. Some people like those hanging around. I don't like those. I feel like you just got bodies hanging out back there not doing anything. So I went 3 points of warriors and did 2 points of 12.
Yes.
2 units of 12 heavy
Yes.
weapon warriors. And I knew Monty would be a little dry in the mouth when he saw
Terrified.
those lined up against his Hearthguard packs.
Yep.
So the idea was, I had the Hearthguard separate, so I was still generating 6 Saga dice, so that wasn't bad. But then I could use that hesitation ability to hopefully get additional rares, which I could use for activation pool. And, so even if I lost a couple of units, I could use that to make up ground. But, yeah, this one was interesting. We used the ruses as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I used a full 6 points. Since I lost a couple of games, I kind of limited you to 3 points. And we just used the generic ruses. What did you think of those,
Oh,
Monty?
I think they're fun. But Raj, I mean, part of this little thing we do is like the person who's dictating the terms tells you as you're coming to the table.
Yeah,
So you told me I had 3 points of ruses, so immediately I had to get out of my chair and throw the ruses
that's
on the
right.
floor, right? And that's the
Mhm.
stress test. And I was thumbing through them furiously, like, okay, no, no, no. And I found one that said your merc gets determination. Well, it was a 3 point ruse. I got to be honest. I mean, it was kind of I'm on the fly. I grabbed it. One time it saved me a saga die. So, I did not maximize my ruses. Whereas I will tell you, in the first, what was it, 3 turns of the game, it seemed like every time there was a moment, you would go, and I'm going to now play this ruse. And I'm like, drats. So very,
Yeah.
very, very clever. Very well done.
So I think there's some that are definitely good bang for your buck. So I picked a couple. One that was 2 free activations my first turn. One that I could do a second movement activation if I didn't charge, and it was fatigue free, so I was able to move up my Hearthguard, throw javelins, and scooch off for free. So that was nice to just
Hmm.
be able to do that trick.
Yep.
I knew you were going to close ranks fast and furiously, so there's one that gives you 3 bonus attacks if the enemy closes ranks. So I'm like, well, I got to take that one.
Yeah.
And then if there was one where I could retreat from combat without a fatigue. So it was really like a kind of an economy
Hmm.
type thing, avoiding fatigue, free
Yeah.
activation, saving dice because I didn't have to rest. So they're pretty fun to use. It would be interesting to see them use an event, and like if everybody ends up, there's 20 different ruses, generic ones, and then if you just see like the same like 5 over and over, or different
Right.
combinations
Right.
thereof. Um, because it did seem like some would be more useful than others, or you might, I don't know. I guess it comes down to your army, and what you got going on with your battle board. Um, what did you think about? So yours was just at the start of the game. This is what I got going on. What did you think about me? Kind of interrupting the gameplay to surprise you with these. Did it bother you?
No, I mean, not really, because we've used ruses not often, but a few times in our Age of Hannibal games. And generally,
Okay.
like, we kind of tell each other beforehand, we'll like, hey, go ahead and bring 6 points of ruses. So like away from the table and with a little preparation, you got a few minutes, kind of, my problem was like, we're ready to go live. And I'm like, I have no ruses. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember what I want, so I was just kind of on the go, which is okay. That's what I did to you, Rodge. So like,
Yep.
here's the scenario. Here's how it's going to go down. So
Mm-hmm.
mine was quickly picked and went out the window very quickly. With a little thought, I probably wouldn't pick that again. But no, I thought it was good. And it was kind of funny because it wasn't just that. You also a few times, we have in this campaign, our warlords have these special things, these
Oh
special,
yeah, yeah.
right? And every time we're in the heat of the battle and it's 6:10 and I'm having a sip of coffee and like we get to like turn 3 and you go, I'm going to use my warlord special ability. I'm like, wait a minute, my warlord has one too. And I'm rustling around trying to find my piece of paper. What does he do? Oh yeah, he does something with saga dice. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
there were a couple of moments. You were kind of keeping me off
On your
balance.
toes, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's dig into the battle. So the ruses were kind of early on, and I don't think they really shifted
No.
anything.
No.
My
No.
strike didn't kill any. The additional attacks didn't matter. The activations were nice, but I didn't really capitalize on it, I would say. Um, so, change of plans. After turn 3, you calculate massacre. Turn 5 is survival. Turn 6 is conquest. So, you want to get to the other side. And we kind of had a heck of a game here. A
We
little bit of
did.
a slug match.
Yes.
I will say the your shooting was a little hot, a little early,
Yes.
like
Yes, it
gunning
was.
down the warriors, a lot of them. So my warriors were up first, kind of in the battle, while the Hearthguard hunkered back, taking their attacks of opportunity. And yeah, I would have liked to have a few more of them stand in. Um, I mean, the extra. I think did you pop a rare the first turn
I
on the
did.
6?
I
So you had
did.
the full 12.
Yeah. 12 crossbow.
Yeah, so I was hoping to kind of shoot down a couple of those on my turn before you went, but didn't work out. And then I was like, well, I'll just make the saves. I'll be good. And didn't quite make as many as I want. So a lot of those guys were shot down.
Yep.
I did get the Western Mercs pretty early,
Yes.
and I think another Hearthguard unit. The key, I think, thing for me was I made a mistake with turn 3, which at the end of this turn would calculate massacre points, where I needed to charge my warlord into a little unit of Hearthguard first because you had God's Host. So I was airbrained for like a moment and just use a dice to activate a levity shoot. It didn't have anything to do with the main battle plan or anything. And then after that, you're like, oh, hold on, I gotta move here. And I was like, oh, I know exactly what you're doing. You're moving away from combat.
Yep.
So you kind of had this small Hearthguard unit kind of blown in the wind, and I know how when you close in ranks and how many dice it takes. So I would have been able to charge with a warlord and use Droog,
Yes.
pop a full either 6 or 8 additional attacks, and so it'd be so overwhelming that you'd be destroyed for sure. So sure
Exactly.
enough, you move out. I can't use Droog. I'm desperate, so I have to charge in anyways, and I'm actually really lucky that my warlord made it out of this and ran off. Really, it just probably should have lost the game right there. And sure enough, you make all the exact number of saves. And so I don't get the massacre points for that unit on that turn. I think it would have been 3. That unit's still generating Saga dice for you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get to it anymore. It's generating survival points. And then at the end of the game, it's generating or kind of blocking conquest points on its little lane. So that one little combat was like 6 or 7 points of, we're kind of hinging on that,
Right.
Obviously the battle could have gone differently, the decisions and stuff like that. But so that's kind of where it went wrong for me. Did it go wrong for you at any point there, Monty?
Oh, yes, it did. Before we move on, so I just like to say, like, there are many ways to play Saga. I think a common way to play Saga is to have both boards up, because when you do that, like, you're kind of dialed in, and that was like the giveaway. That was the tell. Like, as you set your dice, and I'm looking at Droog, and I've seen you use it before, and I knew that to make that work, like, your warlord would be the point of the spear. So then I'm scanning, and I'm like, okay, he's going to hammer. Like, that's how I knew, like, I needed to get the 2-pack out of the way, because you were going to overwhelm it with Droog. And so I was lucky. I was very lucky in that moment, and it only happened because I could look at your board. We played this before, and, with our prior matches, like, I had a pretty good hunch. So after turn 3, one of the things that was stressing me out, like, it's hard to kind of quantify this, and this is why I think you also caught me out by playing Change of Plans. Not a big fan of, like, 3 different checks and doing all the math and stop the game, right? So right away I was like, I kind of like, okay. So I'm like, there's going to come a moment where he's going to try to get his troops over on my half of the battlefield. He has a mounted warlord, and he has 2 mounted Hearthguard. I'm almost all on foot, and I got 2 points of levy that aren't ever going to get across the battlefield. So I was pretty worried about the end game and your mobility and your chance to kind of steal it with your speed. So I looked at you. I looked at your warlord. You had 1 Hearthguard unit that was exhausted. I think your warlord was exhausted, and darn it, because I have this slow foot-based build, I couldn't put any hits on you without a double move. I think actually to get your Hearthguard in the back, I might have even needed a triple move, which is just crazy, even trying to get exhausted guys, right? So every sensible part of me, which is my functioning non-lizard brain, said, okay, just relax. You don't reach for the fences, because when you do, what's the rule? It's on the counter punch that you get taken down. And I'm like, come on, Monty. His warlord's exhausted. When his turn comes, he's going to rest it off with Galvanize. He's going to clean up. He's going to be on the roll. You need to take a chance here. And so I did, and it didn't work. I hit your warlord. I pushed nothing through. You didn't even have to kill one of your Hearthguard for an unblocked hit. And then I'm sitting in front of you with my exhausted warlord. And we know how that goes.
Yeah. So at that point, kind of the dice turned a little bit. The early shooting was more than made up for on this back end here, with my saves. And so started finally doing some damage, I felt like. And it's interesting. So, you're kind of up early. You kind of pushed it to try to end it early. Didn't work. I was able to bring it back. I wasn't expecting that. And then, the way that it worked out came down to the final combat. My warlord trying to push off that stupid little 2-pack that he failed to kill the first time. And so I did kill him. So it denied you conquest points, but they put a hit on him. And that was enough to put another. So he had a fatigue for resilience, a fatigue for the combat. So he had 2. So I had 1 more activation to move across the half, secure the last point, and the win. And you were just able to cancel it outright. And so we ended up in a draw. We both had 29 points. And it's kind of interesting seeing how the points played out. But with the depleted units, and everything like those conquest points were like almost had no impact on the battle. So, as far as like a strategy, I think you want to rack up the massacre and survival, and then kind of win off those, and that just because we're going through most of the units were worth like 1 point. Because they were so depleted, and so compared, I think had like maybe like 24 massacre and survival points, and then the conquest points only added like 1 or 2 to those totals, so it wasn't a huge impact. So maybe in the second, if you played it again, you probably wouldn't be as worried about those last turn scores,
right?
Kind of seeing how that worked out,
right?
And so
Good
maybe
point.
you wouldn't have pushed the warlord necessarily. So that was a good game. Felt pretty good about it. I saw some mistakes that I made, and I'd play these guys again. I kind of like that build. You can kind of get in their face, get them sweating,
right?
And that brothers in arms ability, that's a good one.
So solid. The only thing that saved me, Rodge, was my shooting, because your 12 packs with brothers in arms, and I have a 4-pack of Hearthguard. If I was foolish enough to charge in, you would have 8 defensive dice. That's insane. So of course I wouldn't charge. I mean, what am I going to do though? And then you were saving it because you can use it either offensively or in your turn or my turn. If I punch you have it up, you can use it. Hey, good job. You did no damage. You could also use it in your own turn. So that's why I was sweating until I dealt with those 2 big 12 packs of warriors. I didn't really know what I was going to do when they were paired with brothers in arms. And also ad nauseum. So the heavy weapons give them 5s and 6s. So each result of 5s and 6s was going to be rerolls.
Yeah, it really makes that ability useful.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would use it otherwise, or at least have the threat of it with the javelins as well. It can work well with, so at least force you to close ranks.
Right.
So it was cool to kind of play through everything, and we both thought we were going to lose.
Exactly.
Different in times. The end. And it's another good campaign game. So we decided that we're going to wrap it up here at the end of July. We're going to have an in-person game of some kind. And so I'm looking at the results right now. So I have 3 victories. You have 2 victories, and we have 2 draws. So we've played 8 games.
Wow.
So far. So
wow.
So we'll play a 9th game, and so it's all whoever wins that one takes it all. And I guess we'll have to think about the format. I know we were talking about like an epic saga, but we're going to be using our physical models for this. So I don't think we'll be able to. You would be able to put together a 16-point force to oppose me, but I'd be hard pressed to do 6.5 points at this stage. So we can figure out a format. Probably something pretty simple. Mash our guys together in person. That's going to be awesome.
That's
looking forward to it.
Same. This has really been fun, Rodge. Really learned a lot.
Trying different stuff, and maybe sometime in the future we could try it again. But let's move on here. We got to keep trucking. And Monty, you got your Viking board here?
I do, right in front of me. There it is.
So I've been playing a lot of Vikings since the faction review. So there is a Vikings faction review with Mike Mahalis for 2nd edition. It's out there. It's probably a couple of years old at this point. So I didn't even play any Vikings up until that point. Since then, I probably played 15 games with Vikings.
Wow.
It sounds like you play games. This is over like a year and a half.
Okay, got it.
And it sounds like you
Yes,
You just
I've been
play
dabbling.
Vikings from time to time, just for
Right, right.
fun or
Just
demos or.
exactly. So give my buddy a break, demo, training someone up. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the idea here was probably not a full faction review, but just try to keep it moving and kind of
Mm-hmm.
give our thoughts on our personal play styles, maybe, and what we like to do. But um, yeah, so the Vikings, just in summary, I have to say these the Vikings are a melee army. So to be clear, that they're not an attack army or a defense army. They're a melee army and kind of a peace trading army. So for me, the Vikings, you want to play and plan your attack, your strategy around attacking in melee and defending in melee.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of players think this is an attacking board and you need to attack. So there's no abilities that let you charge or give you extra activations. None of these require you to be the attacker. None of these require you to be the defender. So all these abilities work on either turn. And I think to play the board to its best, you gotta, because I think if you're using your dice for activations and movement, you're not using them for abilities. So I think in some ways you could load up your board against certain opponents, Scott style, and just position yourself, within range,
Yep.
and say, "Bring it." I'm stacked to the gills here. Why don't you fight? So what do you think about what I just said there? Does that compare with how you run them, or?
Yes, Raj, I've developed a better appreciation over time. I think sometimes what happens is, maybe a newer player gets the Vikings, you're thinking Vikings, whoa! And so they play all out with no dice on the board after their punches are thrown. And, with that kind of approach, like the army, burns brightly and then is off the table, right? They're just gone.
Yes.
And it was fun, and they're done in 3 or 4 turns, and you can go tool up for game 2 or get a beer or whatever it is. But using your approach, like punch, counter punch, and realizing that's really the flow is, then you really do want to park and leave some dice for your opponent's turn. And like you said, you could even take the approach of having your board pretty set, come up, have a unit in their face, see if they take the bait, let them get mixed up and blooded, and then get them on the bounce. So I do.
Mm-hmm.
It really is phases, and there are, even though you look at this, you're like, where are my defensive plays? You know what? There actually are hidden in here defensive options, things you could do that make any attack on you be painful for your opponent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And, the nice thing too is if you can get them to come at you, they can't close ranks when they're coming at you. So,
yes.
Generally I'm okay with them closing ranks because it's dropping attack die, but sometimes the way it combos and stuff, it's just can be frustrating. So if you're forcing them to come at you, if you're parked on the objective, they come at you, you can still pop all your same combos and abilities. And for the most part, it doesn't matter, that they get the first, they get to pick the first ability or use fatigue first, but a lot of times that won't matter. On some of these it will, but yeah, those are some great points. So yeah, let's move down to the Nord ability.
Yep.
So remove fatigue from each unit with a medium of your warlord. So for me, this is kind of, if we're going to play with objectives, this is when this ability gets used a lot. Because Vikings, if we're going for objective play, they kind of got to power through and just use brute force activations on their troops to get them moving. Every single guy, there's no efficiency in multiple activations or anything built in the board. So you kind of got to brute force it, and you're going to be doing multiple activations, building up fatigues. So using Nord here, most of the times I've ever used it is when on looting and pillaging or trying to scooch off with objective or something like that, just to clear the fatigues, because you're usually using multiple units and you're using a rare here, so you want to get the bigger benefit from that. Thoughts there, Money?
Yeah, I agree. I I don't know why. I sometimes have the worst luck trying to get a single rare going. So when I play the Vikings, I tend to have to get my fatigue off using Frigg and Asgard. But yeah, I mean it's aces. I mean the only trick is just remember when it says each unit, it includes the enemy units. I know some of the newer players like, wait, what? Did I just clean up your fatigue? And so heads up, it's each unit. Try to position your warlord strategically before you launch Njord, because if you put it near the enemy, their fatigue comes off too.
Yeah, so it comes from the warlord, so you want them kind of in the second wave there, touching a couple of units. It's an activation ability, so it's important for the sequences. You can't do your move, then charge, and use Njord to wipe the fatigue before you go into combat. So I think it could be nice. I'm thinking for if I'm using a 12-pack of warriors, like those guys I want to keep clear and fresh if I can. So I could send them into combat, and then I could see using Njord to clear the fatigue for that combat, just so I'm fresh for the enemy's turn. If you have like a 12-pack like that,
Yep.
I think that would be worth it for a rare, but otherwise I'm using smaller units and they're gonna die anyways. So I'm gonna use this for activation pool to get some more dice. So moving down to Frigg, let's keep it moving.
Yep.
I actually use this for the attack dice. Sometimes.
Right.
Monty.
Right.
So have you ever done that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my personal hierarchy for the uncommons is Uller and Thor. That's those two abilities. And so like when if I get two uncommons, that's where they're going, because the ability to get auto hits stacked with rerolls it's just amazing. So Frigg would be like third and maybe even fourth priority, because if I am going to punch, my third uncommon probably will go on Asgard, so that whoever did the punch, I hate them being able to sweep in and play my fatigue and take me down. So fine, if I have a third uncommon, I generally put it on Asgard.
Yeah. So I think what you said there with Uller and Thor is huge. So I think we could kind of jump to those a little bit and then tie it back to Frigg. So
right.
I think Uller is definitely the meat and potatoes. This is the ability you're banking on, the rerolls. And with Thor, you just have to trust that you're going to roll some rares. And I think if you have at least 10, 12 dice with Uller, it should pay off. You should get a couple extra hits in there. And especially this is like the Hearthguard killer right here. If you're just hitting on 5s and 6s with a reroll, and you're like, well, okay, that's fine. Double my chance of getting a 6.
Yep.
So those are the bread and butter. So with Frigg, what I see is people will automatically use it in addition to Uller and Thor, and it's not really necessary if you have the rerolls. They can use the fatigue to take their armor up. You're rerolling anyways, so maybe there'll be one less hit.
Right.
If they've taken you down, that's fine. You're kind of trading pieces anyways.
Yep.
So you don't necessarily need to use this in combo with Uller and Thor, which I think that's like so common when you play against Vikings, is they move, do the charge, use Frigg to clear the fatigue, use Uller and Thor. And I would just use Uller and let them use the fatigue one way or the other. and then you can actually save it for a different combat.
Mm-hmm.
You could do a follow-up attack. You just have more. It's tough with the Vikings to not sink everything into the one attack.
Yep.
So if you're going to do the multiple attacks, you can save Frigg and use it with Heimdall, and then use a different attack with Uller, Thor, or Valhalla or Heimdall. Some kind of combination between those abilities. So I think you really need to try to shoot for a second combat. Not just one big combat, but two good combats. So the reason I use the attack dice sometimes is with the Levy. When I use the big 12-pack of Levy, they can't use Valhalla, and Heimdall works with them. It would take them from 4, it would cap them out at 8 attacks, but it takes their armor down to 2 automatically. And so hitting levies on 2s just clears them out too fat. That's what the enemy wants. So if they're coming at me, I can move up with the levy. I can shoot javelins, hang out within medium. If they come and fight me on their turn, I can pop Frigg, and I gain, I go from 4 to 7 attacks. I'm almost at a whole, full strength warrior unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that happens fairly regular, probably once a game or something. Right. So that's a way that you can use those attack dice. Otherwise, Frigg, great for keeping the warlord fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be the first activation, so you can use it defensively. So I oftentimes like to save it for the warlord, throwing them in there. Okay. Going down, Heimdall, reduce your armor by 1 to gain 5 attack dice. So I always see newer Vikings seem to go for Valhalla first and Heimdall second. And Valhalla just removes outright as a casualty, where all you're doing with the armor here is, potential that they could, hit you on a 3 instead of a 4, and you still have block dice. And so I don't have the math here, but
right.
If they have 10 or less attacks, just, based off the math, Heimdall is safer than using Valhalla, because Valhalla, you automatically lose the guy,
right?
Your troops,
right.
Or Heimdall, if they don't roll a bunch of 3s, it didn't even actually matter, and you got a bunch of extra attacks. So I would do Heimdall first, and then keep Valhalla as your backup. Sometimes the Saga dice don't align for you, but I always go for Heimdall first, and then Valhalla if you're doing the secondary attack. So that's what I would recommend. Heimdall, Uller, Thor. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good attack right there, Monty.
That's a good attack. Yes, it is.
Going down to Odin. Do you have anything to say about Odin, Monty?
So I know Odin is super spendy, but I will say if you're playing a shooty faction, you absolutely have to play this. I sometimes see Viking players put this up, and then after turn 1 or 2, either they can kind of get drawn out to use it on a small shoot, and then the bigger shoot comes in behind it. So say you're playing, playing the Welsh, and they shoot at you with some warriors, and you look over there, if you look closely, there's an 8-pack of Hearthguard with javelins. Well, maybe don't use Odin on the small shoots that are trying to tease you out and get you to use that ability. Save it for the big shoot, because that's what he wants. He wants to shoot off, that's fine. Shoot your little stuff, but try to look and spot where his big, most efficient shooting is. Save it for that. And I would also say, if your opponent doesn't shoot on a turn and your dice are left here, go ahead and leave it, because it's doing its job. If they're not shooting, and they have a shooty warband, and they go a turn, don't sweep them, leave them, because they're efficient and they're ready, and you're making them play your game. But it is spendy. It is spendy to leave 2 up.
I agree, but once it's up though, the Vikings don't necessarily have a lot of units. even when I do the smaller ones,
Right.
turn 3, there's a couple down. So a lot of the times it's not,
Yeah. Have to
messing
be
with your
swept.
plans. Yeah. So, yeah, great ability. Keep that in mind. And you can kind of see based off their dice too and what activations they have, whether, they can actually do the big attack or not.
Right.
So, anyways, moving on to Asgard. Monty, you like this one right here?
Yeah, I still keep it as like my third favorite use for the uncommon. I really, so much about Saga is getting caught out on the bounce after your big attack. And if I'm hopeful that I'm going to have something left after the attack, Asgard being able to sweep my fatigue before he comes in, and it doesn't even have to be a charge on that unit. It just says trigger after a unit has been
Yes.
activated charge. So you can look around and maybe you want to clean your warlord up or some other key unit that has fatigue. That's a nice play. Really like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a great ability. And the potential with Frigg and Nord there, 3 abilities that can sweep fatigues. So if you get the right dice and the right situation, your warlord can go from beat up to fresh in a single minty turn.
Yeah. Yes, he
So I
can.
think that's awesome. I like being aggressive with the warlord with the Vikings because there's so many ways to kind of sneak out of it and get get the fatigues off, to try to do some damage without going down yourself. So I think that's awesome.
Mhm.
We talked about Thor and
Yep.
Uller.
Yep.
I don't think I have anything else to add, but just believe with Thor. Just believe you're gonna get those 6s. Loki. Now this one was interesting because you actually, when we played a Viking on Viking game where you used all Hearthguard,
Yep.
and you ended up using this one, and I can see why, because of the other abilities to get additional attacks. Do you actually find yourself using this one when you're playing normal games with your usual build?
Right, right. So, I think what really drives it is how many uncommons did I throw? If I have one of those turns where I just dumped a bunch of common dice, I got to do something with them. And then Loki suddenly is on my radar screen. You certainly can use it offensively. I tend to use it, especially like if I know my opponent likes to stack, some of his abilities for a really big punch. Then it's pretty sweet when he comes in to either punch me or sweep up one of my units. He will do his first one. Then I sweep in with Loki, and now you can see him pause, and he looks back at all the other abilities he has queued up, and he's like, okay, each one, if I use these other 2 or 3 things, I'm going to give them 2, 4, 6 dice. And it causes like a little static. It causes a little hesitation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the key is if you have some fatigues as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like
right.
it's not 1 or 2 abilities, that they are going to stack up. Is going to be like 4 or 5 separate go arounds, and all of a sudden, your 6-pack of warriors maxed out at 12 attacks, that he wasn't expecting or planning for.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think it can throw a monkey wrench in the works, but it's tough to plan around, and just having an extra dice to go here, I feel sometimes is tough. But this kind of goes in with Valhalla, I think, and the strategy. You kind of opened my eyes to where you could go in on your turn, get a nice attack, and then leave Loki, Heimdall, or Loki, Valhalla, Asgard queued up for the opponent's turn. And then when they do go in, they're going to stack some stuff in their odds. And when you figure out, okay, this is the big one, the big hit, I'm going to be wiped out. Then you play Valhalla, and you say,
Yes.
I'm going down, but I'm
Yes.
taking you with me.
Exactly.
Whether that's through Loki or Valhalla. So I think that's more the Valhalla play, for that
Agree.
newer players should be thinking about. I mean, besides the Berserker, the holo play. That was pretty
Right.
good too.
Yeah, that is.
So, Lonnie, do you ever try to keep your Berserkers alive?
So I sometimes don't use Berserkers, probably because I'm playing with someone newer, but boy, they're just so good. Like you do have to really you really have to dial in and keep them kind of in your pocket. But when that moment comes and you unleash them, just spend them. That one shot. Make sure you make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if there's the eight pack of Hearthguard, that's your target. You know, you're
Right.
just waiting, pounce. It can be tougher trying to get the use out of them. And, you know, if there's just 1 point, you know, there's no more than 1 point of anything concentrated, and you know, you can be playing a faction that has you're going up against pagan peoples or something, and they're all 6 points or a 6 pack of warriors or something, so you're not even getting a full point. But there is a play, especially if you can go against an exhausted unit, so they're getting the -1 to hit. You can use the fatigues to take them up, and then you can use Uller and Thor with 16 attacks, and you know you're maybe just hitting them on their regular armor, but it's still devastating.
Right.
So you don't have to automatically
Burn them up.
And really, I try to find those situations where I don't have to use them. And you know, once units are depleted, they can be pretty good for cleaning up small units too, because then if they close ranks, you know, they might be going. You have 4 berserkers. You know, if they have 5 attacks, or close ranks, you know, they can't kill them all.
No.
Then for sure. And hitting on 3s, blocking on 5s, you know, it's not a given that 5 attacks will even kill them. You know, so it just throws another monkey in the works.
Yeah.
So I'll keep that in mind.
Interesting.
Moving down to Ragnarok here.
Oh yeah.
It's fun to shout.
Yes,
it's fun to play. Obviously, taking down the armor is kind of nice when they got the Hearthguard. That the big thing is the free charge activations, and things get a little wonky in Saga with unlimited activations. Potentially, we've seen with the Fanatical Pilgrims. So I think the play here kind of is thinking about maybe or kind of making sure that I know you're kind of moving your troops up like in a wave and a line.
Yes.
So if you can never count on it, you can't bank a rare in there or anything and try to get to the next one. So it's just about being ready to use it if it shows up. And so, you know, with Vikings, I don't think you want, you know, a front and a back wave. You kind of want a mass, you know, wall of bodies kind of ready to go and kind of punish them if you get this. So thoughts on this one?
Yeah, you are exactly right. We had a moment in a training game recently where Ragnarok was popped. I think it was turn 3, 2 Viking armies, and we were just like that. And so I kind of went to the other side, and we just kind of no rush. We just puzzled through what makes sense. Like before you send a unit in for a second charge with the fatigue from the melee, the fatigue from the next activation, right? You need to soften up targets. And then as they crumble and as the enemy's units pop and throw fatigue on their own units, then suddenly you can do something crazy like taking someone who's already charged once and saying, go again, because look, my target has 2 fatigues and we're going to just keep going like dominoes. And so I see in the friendly wild games that some of my newer Viking players, they just kind of wildly, just throw them out there. Yes, forward,
every unit does it.
Exactly.
One charge, you know.
That's it. And and then go again until nobody's left. That's okay. That's a way to play. But you can also look more like dominoes, like pop that key unit, watch them spread fatigue. Now, like look at your layout and like now maybe it makes sense to send that unit in or that unit and when we were done, it was very effective. He had turned the tide of the game and I was on my back heel because I think my Viking build was a little Hearthguard heavy. So the
Mm-hmm.
efficiency of his warriors and Ragnarok turned the day. Yeah.
Awesome. Good story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would look to, obviously you don't want to activate every unit once, but I would kind of look towards trying to activate the same unit as many times as it can and then move on to the next one once it's exhausted. It kind of depends on the unit, but especially once it's depleted, put the fatigues on, try to pop something, try to get them exhausted. So you kind of have that advantage going in with your other free activations. So, yeah, always fun when you can get it.
Yes.
It's turned losses into wins. I've experienced this personally. Sorry, Scott. So we can talk about builds just a little bit. So I've kind of been thinking about the smaller units of Vikings that I've been doing. So I like running 5-packs of warriors, for the ultimate slinkiness with Heimdall. Going to the 5, double to 10, you're good to go. I find that they're just a little too small. So I think I want to go for 6, especially when you get Ragnarok. It's happened multiple times where I send in a 5-pack and they all die on the first go. So you don't get a second one. Where with the 6-pack, there's that one guy left. The 5-packs always died by exactly. So the 6-pack is just like one extra body, just a little extra, maybe against shooting to taking down your Saga dice. So having just one or two extra guys can help when you're going for Ragnarok. And then, the math works better with Valhalla. 2, you could get up to the 12 attacks then. Do you have a preferred? Yeah. What would you suggest to?
You just nailed it. Somebody. The 6-packs. I like the 6-packs because it works with Valhalla. It works with Heimdall. And then it's also, if I have 3 points of warriors, it works out perfectly because 24 divided by 6 is 4. So I got 4 units. So it's a very nice, it seems to work well. Yes, I like that. And if I could sneak in, if in your friendly games, you and your buddies allow a merc, I know there's many you could choose, but I ran the Vikings in the last 6 weeks with shield maidens, and the way the battlefield gets so muddy, and then their ability to use those fatigues to either raise their armor up or take it. Well, yeah, raise it up generally, right? But their little shield maiden shenanigans, they have a banner, they have determination, they have special buffs, they're resistant to shooting. I mean, they're like a Swiss Army tool, and they just visually look awesome when you're running a Vikings unit to have shield maidens. So I really like those as my 1 merc point when I'm running the Vikings.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that kind of helps you, I think, be more aggressive with your activations and launching that second attack on 1 turn as well. So
right.
That's cool. Yeah. So I recommend, I would probably just go all warriors with the 1 unit of the berserkers is probably what I suppose in the newbie games. That's what I've been giving the noobs to play with.
Nice.
The levy are fine. You could use them. They kind of add a little something. The Thor combo doesn't really work out the way that you want it. They just don't have enough attacks to really make it worthwhile.
Right.
I mean, I did wipe out an 8-pack of Irish Hearthguard with the levy unit early on, which got me sticking to the two units of levy for a while. But I think one unit could be fine. It's always nice having bodies and a little shooting. But I think if you're a newbie, you don't really need it. And I don't know, like regular Hearthguard. What would you say to those ones, Monty, for these guys?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think more is better, and we had a whole episode on our Hearthguard worth it. I think
Yeah.
this is the perfect army where you can just go, heave ho most of those guys and just have your berserkers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you sneak one in, but like as I saw in even my demo game, right? Just because I was trying something different, I had like 2 6 packs of Hearthguard. And oh, the Vikings love to gobble up, 6 packs of Hearthguard with warriors.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna score up. This is like a pinball game. I'm gonna score on this, and that's exactly what happened. I couldn't keep them alive. So yeah, I think you're exactly right with that build.
Mm-hmm. I think you could run them if you were calculated and use Asgard, Njord, Loki, keep them fresh. Just use the Uller with the base attacks. Never use Valhalla or Heimdall to keep them alive. But I don't. I think the Berserkers are good enough, and
Yeah.
they're just great.
Yep.
Just have them next to your Warlord. They can soak up a hit if you need to, but
Mhm.
with these different abilities to get rid of fatigue, that Warlord, he's just a tough little cookie. So, just in closing, if you're running the Vikings, I think try to keep your board stacked as a priority, and leave something for the next guy's turn. If that means you can't kill as many guys as you want on this turn, just play it cool. We want like the Loki, the tricky, conniving Viking
Yes.
warlord,
Yes.
that wins the day. It's not the crazy all-out berserker, warlord. We don't want this. Isn't that warlord's battle board? So, just keep your board stacked, and fight on both turns and grind them down. Make sure you're getting the trades. And if he's going to take you down, make sure you take him down with you, and you'll come out ahead. Unless you get Ragnarok, and then it's just disregard what I just said and go all out on that one turn. But that's what's nice about Ragnarok is you can just stack your whole board because you don't have to worry about the activations. Keep everybody moving.
Yeah, right.
You can stack up every one of these abilities and still hammer them good. So, all right. So those are some Viking thoughts. Hopefully they're helpful for the newer players out there and got the old players thinking. If you are an old veteran player, break this board out from time to time, and it's a fun one.
Yeah.
It's fun playing these guys. All right. Well, let's move into the paint contest. So we've got another one of these here, Monty. Summer painting contest. We don't have any theme as far as age goes. There's nothing official on the horizon. So this will be open to any age. You got to take a before picture. So Monty, let's give a little frowny face.
Okay.
Some thumbs down. Remember, we used to do this. These unpainted models are no good. So take a before picture, and you got to paint at least a point on one legal saga point of something. And this needs to be done before our next monthly episode. So I'm going to look at the calendar right now and see. So the next monthly episode is tentatively scheduled for August 5th. So we need these in by August 2nd. So this is over a month, Monty. This is huge.
Yeah.
And due to that, this is gonna be the full Monty challenge, where I'm not gonna cap it at 1 point. So you have to do at least a point.
Okay.
If you want to paint up an entire army this month, we will accept that as your entry.
Oh wow.
So it should be from the same army. I don't want to see everything you painted over the month. But it could be as many points as you want, and we'll factor that in. We've always little quality versus quantity. Quantity has a quality
Yes,
all its own.
Yes, it does. I've heard.
So, and this is about how long Monty gives himself to finish an army. So if you want to take the Monty challenge here, we'll go for it. Does that sound good?
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, make sure you get that before picture. I'm sure there's details I'm forgetting, but I'll post those below. So one random entry will get a prize, so you don't have to be a good painter. You just have to participate. We will pick a favorite based off whatever criteria we see fit, whatever strikes our fancy. Obviously, there'll be an impact for a lot of points of troops, and that might sway us. But Gripping Beast has once again agreed to dole out the prizes here. So they've agreed in the past to point of metal troops, but the last couple of times they've just been giving out the plastic army boxes. So Regiment of Arab Heavy Infantry, or whatever.
Nice.
Whatever the fancy. So Sweet Talk Andy over there, you could probably get that out of him. I'm sure he won't turn you down. So I think that is probably about it. I'm looking forward to the entries. So these do need to get posted on the Saga Discord. So we instituted that last time. It worked out well. It cuts down on the emails and posting and sending them to Monty and getting us on the same page. So they just need to get posted onto the Saga Discord. Link is below. There'll be a little section for the paint contest picks. So you could post your initial, picture and then do the ones at the end of the month, or you could save it towards the end of the month, but just get your before and after pictures on that particular server. I don't know what the nomenclature they use.
Yeah, that works.
It'll be on there, and you'll be able to see the ones from last time, so you'll know you're in the right place. But that's going to be it. I'm looking forward to seeing what folks can come up with.
Same.
Monty, you and I, crossing the finger, we should be meeting before the next one. So
that's so awesome. Looking forward to it, dude.
Getting it going, wrapping up the campaign, and moving on to bigger and better things. And what a way to kick it off. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. And I can't wait to tell everybody about it. I'm not going to predict victory at this point. That would be some hubris.
Well, you saw how my hubris worked out. Tell me what you're bringing. Let me pick the scenario. Pick any army. Oh, wait. No, don't do that.
Yeah, we're going to have a good fight. It'll be good to push the troops around. I do need to find some Eastern Saga dice before we fight, because I don't have the dice in person yet, so I'm gonna have to get my hands on them.
I may not have those. I don't have those.
If I can't get them, I just have to forfeit. I think.
It's
not. I'm not. Monty's gonna make a run on every website.
I love it.
Out of stock. So looking forward to that, buddy. It's been fun.
It has.
I think I'll check everybody next time. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Saga!